She doesn't want control over your life. She wants control over your emotions. And the moment she gets it, the game is over. A narcissist doesn't win because they're smarter. They win because most people never realize they're playing a game. At first, everything feels perfect. They admire you, praise you, make you feel special, like you're different from everyone else. You think you've found someone who finally understands you. But then something changes. Slowly. Quietly. Almost invisibly. One day they compliment you. The next day they criticize you. One day you're the best thing that ever happened to them. The next day you're the problem. And that's where most men make their first mistake. They try harder. They explain more. They defend themselves. They fight to get back the version of her they met at the beginning. But here's the truth most men never realize. That version was never real. It was bait. And the more you chase it, the deeper you get pulled in. Imagine this. You come home after a long day. You're tired. Focused on your responsibilities. Then suddenly she starts an argument. Not about something important. Something small. Something ridiculous. The dishes. A text message. A comment you made 3 weeks ago. You try to explain yourself. She twists your words. You explain again. She changes the subject. Now you're defending something completely different. An hour later you're exhausted. Confused. Frustrated. And somehow, you're apologizing. Even though you don't know what you did wrong. Sound familiar? That's not a misunderstanding. That's emotional manipulation. A narcissist survives on reaction. Not logic. Not truth. Reaction. Your anger feeds them. Your frustration feeds them. Your need to be understood feeds them. Which means the first rule is simple. Stop trying to win every argument. Because many of those arguments were never designed to be won. They were designed to drain you. The strongest man in the room is not the loudest. It's the man who stays emotionally stable when chaos shows up. Those alone changes everything. Because narcissists expect emotional access. They expect immediate reactions. They expect you to panic. To chase. To prove. To beg for understanding. And when you don't, something interesting happens. They lose balance. Because suddenly the script isn't working. Most men think handling a narcissist means becoming more aggressive. It doesn't. It means becoming less emotionally available to manipulation. There's a difference. A huge difference. One man explodes. Another man observes. One loses control. The other gains information. Guess which one keeps his power? Here's something most people discover too late. A narcissist studies your weaknesses. Not consciously every time. But constantly. They notice what hurts you. What triggers you. What makes you insecure. Then those things mysteriously appear during conflicts. Your career. Your appearance. Your past mistakes. Your family. Nothing is random. And that's why self-control becomes your greatest weapon. Because if someone knows exactly how to trigger you, but can't trigger you anymore, their influence starts collapsing. Think about that. The button still exists. But it no longer works. That's powerful. Very powerful. Another trap men fall into is over-explaining. A narcissist accuses. You provide evidence. They accuse again. You provide more evidence. Soon you're acting like a lawyer defending your existence. Stop. A healthy person wants clarity. A narcissist often wants control. Those are not the same thing. You don't need 20 paragraphs to explain yourself. You don't need a speech. You don't need permission to know your own truth. Sometimes a calm sentence is enough. I disagree. That's it. No emotional performance. No desperation. No debate. Just certainty. Because certainty is difficult to manipulate. Now let's talk about guilt. This is where many strong men fall apart. A narcissist often uses guilt like a weapon. You set a boundary. Suddenly you're selfish. You protect your peace. Suddenly you're uncaring. You say no, suddenly you're the villain. At first, it works. Because good people naturally question themselves. But eventually you learn something important. Not every accusation deserves self-reflection. Sometimes accusations are simply tools. And once you understand that, your confidence grows fast. Here's another truth. A narcissist often fears one thing more than anything else. Consequences. Not arguments. Not emotions. Consequences. Because consequences remove control. That's why boundaries matter. Real boundaries. Not threats. Not emotional speeches. Boundaries. A boundary isn't saying, please stop. A boundary is deciding what you will do if the behavior continues. That's where power lives. Anyone can make requests. Strong men enforce standards. Quietly. Consistently. Without drama. Let's go deeper. One of the most dangerous effects of dealing with a narcissist isn't what they do to you. It's what they make you become. You become anxious. Hypervigilant. Always anticipating conflict. Always checking moods. Always monitoring reactions. You stop feeling like yourself. And that's exactly why rebuilding your identity matters. Go to the gym. Focus on business. Build your skills. Strengthen friendships. Reconnect with your mission. Not because it hurts them. Because it heals you. Too many men become obsessed with changing the narcissist. Wrong focus. You cannot control another person's character. You can only control your response. And that shift changes everything. Imagine two men. Both encounter the same manipulative person. The first man becomes consumed. He spends months trying to prove his worth. Trying to fix the situation. Trying to be understood. The second man notices the pattern. Accepts reality. Protects his energy. Moves forward. One loses years. The other gains wisdom. The difference isn't intelligence. It's acceptance. Acceptance of reality. This may be the hardest lesson of all. Stop expecting accountability from people who benefit from avoiding it. Read that again. Many men stay trapped because they're waiting for the narcissist to finally understand. Finally apologize. Finally change. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But your life cannot remain on hold while you wait. Your future is too valuable for that. Your peace is too valuable for that. Your purpose is too valuable for that. The moment you stop chasing closure, you start finding freedom. And freedom looks different than most people imagine. It's not revenge. It's not proving them wrong. It's not winning some final argument. Freedom is waking up without emotional chains. Freedom is thinking clearly again. Freedom is trusting yourself again. Freedom is no longer needing validation from someone who keeps moving the finish line. That's the real victory. Not defeating the narcissist. Defeating the version of yourself that believed your worth depended on their approval. Because once that happens, the manipulation loses power. The guilt loses power. The fear loses power. And suddenly you see everything differently. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You stop chasing. You start leading. You stop seeking permission. You start trusting yourself. That's when respect returns. Not from them. From you. And that's where real power begins. Because the narcissist's greatest weapon was never their manipulation. It was your emotional dependence on their opinion. The day you break that dependence, the day you master your emotions, the day you stop giving your peace away, you become someone they can no longer control. And a man who cannot be controlled is a man who cannot be defeated.